So here we are again, end of the month, your Monster Particles roundup. If you remember at the end of last month, I finished by saying I was off to do some filming for Monster with John over on the Island Lake. Now, I've also said about September being my absolute favourite month. So I was quite hopeful, although when we turned up the weather wasn't exactly what I was hoping for. September to me is sort of indicative of low pressure systems, you know, big winds, clouds zooming past, or you know, autumn, if you like. Although it was only the very first week of September, so only just out of August, but the weather had come with us, if you like. It was definitely sort of August summery weather. It was hot. We set up on a swim called Butcher's Point, which is a sort of a shallower, little bit shallower area of the lake maybe. It looked quite good. I hadn't seen any fish. We had a good look round, spent hours, you know, dragging John all round in the boat all over the place, towing another boat behind us with like his overnight kit and some of my kit so I could make room for him in the boat. And we had a good look around the lake. Didn't really find much to fish for, to be honest. I think I see one fish in the whole time, and set up in this Butcher's Point. Now, the original plan was for him to come up on the Tuesday, because bank holiday was Monday. But he needed to sign a waiver form, you know, for insurance and whatever, and have his life jacket checked and what, you know, bits and pieces for the boat safety, which is fair enough. Now, there was only going to be somebody available on the bank holiday Monday, so we actually turned up on the bank holiday Monday, which I wouldn't normally do, you know. It wasn't that busy, people had gone. But as it turned out, it would be quite a momentous thing, really, because he was there for 24 hours from Monday lunchtime until Tuesday lunchtime. Originally, he was supposed to be there from Tuesday lunchtime until Wednesday lunchtime. It will become relevant in a bit why that was such a big change. Anyway, we done the feature, we done all our work and bits and pieces. I wasn't on the fish, and you know, I didn't think I was in the right areas. He went off home. I loaded the stuff up in the boat and went for another look round. Boated all around the lake, got to, you know, the far island, then the middle island, then the first island, which had already been fishing. So I got back off on the first island and went for a wander around the lake. And I got to, there's a swim there which don't really get fished very often. Apparently it used to be one of the top swims on the lake. You know, and could be in its day, but when it was weedy, it was a very good swim. But without the weed, it's just a deep, empty bowl. Now, the previous week to this, I'd seen fish in this swim. The first fish I'd properly seen showing in this swim all year. I'd seen quite a few of them. And I'd been out there and I'd baited and I'd got my markers out. And I don't know whether I think I might have told you this already. I had a catastrophic engine failure and my engine broke completely in the middle of the lake in 46-mile-an-hour gusts, and I was blown completely down, straight back down to the car park, into the car park, had to pack up. Luckily everything, including the dog and all my gear, was in the boat. Loaded the van, had to go. So for lack of anywhere else to go, I thought I would go on the main point swim and fish one rod, because the main point swim is by the gap between two islands, and I could fish my right hand rod into this area that I'd seen fish. It wasn't actually the swim as such, but it was, some of the fish I'd seen there had been like sort of closer into the left, and it was, you know, it was easy to fish from this point. So I did exactly that. Fished two rods out in the open water, which I was confident on. I'd caught fish out there before. It's where I've had a lot of my recent captures. And this one rod, just on, you know, where I'd baited the week before, not being able to fish where I'd seen fish. Hadn't seen any fish there at all. Anyway, I went to bed, again, out under the stars. Just as I was dropping off to sleep, I see this great big moon coming up over the trees. I wasn't aware that it was the full moon. I love fishing on a full moon. There's definitely something in it, that lunar draw, you know. I mean, it affects the tides, doesn't it? It creates the tides. That's what it is. It's like it's gravity, gravitational pull. The Earth pulls at the moon, and the moon pulls back at the Earth, and it keeps them where they are. and that's what creates the tide. So it's got to have some sort of effect. I think it's got to have some sort of effect on all bodies of water. You know, if it can draw the seas one way and the other, then it can affect water. And a lot of people believe in this totally, you know, and fishing on a full moon and a new moon are the prime times. And I've had good results. I'm not saying the other times are rubbish, but I have had good results on a full moon. I love fishing on a full moon. And when I looked at it, see it there, I got my phone out straight away and looked, and sure enough, the actual complete full moon was the next day. So I thought, my confidence went up. Even though I'd seen nothing, my confidence went right up. So next morning I got up and I'm sat there and I'm sort of, you know, looking out, thinking, I haven't seen anything, it don't look all that, you know. Planning my next move, really. It was only about, I don't know, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever, and I'm already thinking, what am I going to do today? John's been gone, like I say, from the previous lunchtime, but he would have been there at this time. Suddenly I've had a bite on the right hand rod, the one chucked just round the corner. Just a couple of beeps, jumped down there, look, the tip's getting pulled round like that, hit into this fish. As soon as I hit into it, I thought, oh, that's a good one. You know, sometimes when you strike into a fish and the tip stays where it was and the rest of the rod bends, and you think, whoa, yeah, there's some weight there. And then it went and it started going and going, and it went out and it started kiting round, and I managed to get it back a bit. And then there's like on this second island, there's a jetty there. So he started going towards this jetty, like proper powerful. And I thought, I'm not winning this battle like the way it's going. He's just going wherever he wants. The carp's dictating the pace, if you like. So I'm going to have to go out for him. So I jumped in the boat, pulled myself out to him, pulled him away from this jetty, put the boat in reverse and sort of just held the rod and backed him off and got him over this deep, you know, like I was saying, this sort of deep nothing area. He was nowhere near the bottom. He was probably about a rod length down, and he was just plodding and plodding and plodding and going round and round and round, and, you know, pulling the boat 20 yards that way, pulling the boat back 20 yards this way. About halfway through the fight, I started to get that feeling, you know, when you think, not only is this a big one, this could be the big one. You know, there ain't a lot of fish can pull like that. And the fish in there is called roids, and I'm assuming it's not called roids for nothing. So I'm playing him, and deep down I've seen this flash of it's very pale, this fish. And I saw this pale flash, and then it turned again. And for a second, I thought, oh, it's a common. And then it sort of went down another foot and I couldn't see it again. So now I'm playing this fish and I'm thinking, it must be a big old common. It feels like a really, really big fish. So now I'm playing what I think is a massive common. Anyway, it's plodding about under the boat, and I managed to gently get a foot here, a foot there, and sort of getting him up towards the surface. And as he's come up, I can see it's a mirror. And suddenly he's come up with a gulp of air and just laid on the surface. And I know straight away what fish it is. You know, it's roids, it's the big one, it's my target fish. Laying there on the surface. I can see the bait, I can see the hook. I hate that when you can see the hook, you know. I like it when it's so far down you can't see it at all, but I can see everything. I can see my rig hanging out his gob. And he's about this far beyond the maximum range I can get with my landing net. And I'm just like, and it's weird with a boat. When you're trying to land a fish from a boat, if you push with the landing net, it just pushes the boat back. Boats, no matter what they weigh, they're very easy to move on water. You can move them with one finger. So anything you do has the reverse effect. So as I'm stretching with the net, which is touching the water, all that's happening is the boat's going backwards. So I've had to put the net down, take another thing, and he's gone over the cord and he's gone in. And the feeling was just like, wow. You know, I looked in the net and I thought, yeah, it's definitely roids. Because you question it, don't you? You look, you know, don't want to make a fool of yourself and give it the big one, and then, oh no, it's not, it's a 37 pounder. But in reality, it could only be one fish. So got him back to shore, secured the net and everything. And I just thought, had we gone with our original plan, I mean, it might not have worked out like that, because if we'd done the original plan, I might have fished a different swim or a different spot because John was with me. I might have tried something else or whatever. But you very, very nearly got a capture of the biggest fish in the lake as part of that feature that I done for Monster. So close, so close. My first phone call, I got a guy I work with. He's a professional photographer, works for one of the magazines, and I knew he was fishing just over the road. So my first call was to him, you know, to say, get your ass over here and help us do these photos. And then my next was a message to John to say, You just missed out, mate, by that much. But yeah, what a touch. Now, I was fully under the impression that this fish was going to be a new personal best. I went there for a personal best. I don't often fish for carp because of their weight. You know, I want them to be big uns, obviously. You know, age and the way they look and everything else always comes into it, the type of lake, the challenge and everything. But I had gone to the island lake for all those reasons, but also because this fish last year was doing 60 pounds. That's ridiculously big. My personal best is 55. Now, a month previous, this fish came out. Its only other capture this year at 54 and a half, something like 54 and a quarter. So I'm thinking 4 weeks at that time of year, you know, it's going to have put on a cut. They put it on really quick after spawning. You know, mate had caught it not long after spawning, and they can put on a pound, nearly a pound a week. You know, they can ram it on at that time of year. I thought, you know, he's only got to beat 55 and a half to be a new PB. I got him in, tied the scales up to the tree. I like to get an exact reading with a big fish. Plopped him up there, got him on the scales. It spun round 54.4. I was like, you haven't got an ounce, not a single ounce. How does that work? I mean, it doesn't matter. It's the same fish. I was still over the moon. I'm still over the moon now. You know, I've set out to catch a target fish, a specific animal, and I've caught it, and I couldn't be happier. But I thought, you know, I was expecting it to be a PB. So if you know, it might take a slither away from it, but not really, you know. I'm still chuffed to bits with it. So yeah, came close to getting that all live on camera. But anyway, we caught him. I got a little bit of video of him. We done him in the water. Anything over 40 pounds has got to be done in the water now. It's a new rule on there. Not that sort of in favour of it, to be honest, because once they're in the water they start to go mad because they know they're nearly home. But we've got some lovely photos. Got some really, really nice photos. He done me really proud with the photos. I'd like to say a little bit of video of him as well. So there we go, Mr. Royd's 54.4. Mission complete. Let's wade him out into some deep water, take a couple of pics, and he can go home to fight another day. So that was him, Mr. Royd's, and just another reinforcement, if you like, of the way I feel about, or I'm getting more and more feeling towards full moons. You know, I've been fishing forever, and I've never been mad for it. I've always had this thing. I've always said the same thing. I said, if a full moon and a new moon, which is no moon, are the best 2 times to fish, do you want to know that? Because that means the other 2 weeks, you've got to be thinking they're not so good. Do you want to go fit? If you've only got Saturday and Sunday, or Friday and Saturday, or Tuesday and Wednesday and Monday, whatever, or one day a week, do you want to look at that lunar cycle and think, rubbish this week? Not really, do you? And it's not rubbish, because you can catch, you catch 4 weeks on the trot, so you're catching it on every stage of the moon. But, the more information I put together, the more I can't help thinking that full moon is something special, especially when it coincides September, October, that sort of time, which is a brilliant time to be fishing. Yeah, I'm pretty much sold on it myself, to be honest. So anyway, the next week, I decided to have a week off from fishing, which would be unheard of for me. Not to have a week off, I do that, but in September, way back in, I don't know, June, I'd said to the missus, don't forget, because she's not going to forget. We've been together long enough. She knows what September means. May and September and February, they're the 3 months for me. But I said, don't forget, September, don't expect to see a lot of me. I'll be flat out because I'm going to get that big one in September. Because I'd caught it in the first week of the month, the weather for the second week was due to be exactly the same. Rubbish for fishing, high pressure, flat calm, hot. And I had a load of stuff to do. I had a load of filming to do in here for my Patreon channel. I got to the stage, I'd done a load of stuff in advance and I'd used all that up. So I was working on deadline all the time, like I am with this. This will probably be late. I'm always working on deadline. So I thought, you know, I've caught the big one. There was other jobs needed doing. I'll have a week off. And as it turned out, I managed to get about 4 episodes in advance, which was brilliant. You know, it gives me a lot more breathing space for when autumn does eventually arrive. So yeah, I had the week off the next week, caught up with a few bits and pieces. And then I thought, am I going to go back to the island lake? You know, I've not been there long. Obviously, we didn't start till the end of lockdown, did we? When was that? Nearly June, wasn't it? End of May, something like that. You know, and it's only the beginning of September. But I've done well. I'm happy with what I've done. I've had 30 fish out of there, and I've had my big target fish. And I'm due to go to K1 this winter. I've decided I'm going to fish K1 like I did last winter. Some amazing carp in there. And K1 and the island lake. Well, the island lake is actually K2. And they're joined. They were one lake. And then a metal fence, if you like it. There was a little gap under a bridge. And that's been blocked off. So the water can go through, but the carp can't go through. So it's not very far away. It is literally joined on. So the next week I decided what I'll do is I'll start the winter early, you know, very early in September. I've never fished K1 in the warmer weather. I'll go over there, have a look, see what it's all about. You know, it's not going to be the same as my winter fishing last year, but start getting a bit of bait in and seeing where they are. You know, I even took some floaters with me. I thought it might be brilliant. Might get a few bites rather than struggling in the winter. It might be full on September fishing. So I decided, unpack all the gear, take all the boat gear out, took my engine out, took me my life jackets, my batteries, everything like that out, put the barrow in and decided to fish from the bank, and I was off to K1 and I was going to do a session on there. When I arrived on Monday morning at K1, I was horrified. I mean, I hadn't thought how busy it might be. It's not busy for only probably a third of the swims we used up, but they were all at one end, which was obviously where the fish was. There's a lot of people still on furlough. There's people, unfortunately, have lost their jobs through this COVID shit. And, there's anglers that was their days to fish. And it wasn't so much that it was busy. It was busy compared to what I was used to, because I've only fished it in the winter. So I looked, and straight away I'm on the back foot a little bit. I'm thinking, I don't know whether I like this. There was nobody up one end, which was nice. So I walked round and round that end. Didn't see any fish. And then just as I got up to the sort of busier end, there was somebody, and then an empty swim, and then quite a few swims taken. And in this empty swim, I actually saw 2 fish poke their heads out. And I thought, well, that's not a bad, that's a good starting point. But I thought, before I commit, I'm going to go for a walk around. And as it happens, the walk around ended up being about 6 hours. I walked round K1 a couple of times. Next to that is Horton, Church Lake. I walked round Horton a couple of times. And then I got me and the dog back in the truck and drove over to Raisbury 1 North Lake. Did a complete circuit of that, and that's quite a big lake. Chatted to some lad up the top end, this, that and the other, see a couple of fish on there. And the more I walked and the more I looked, the more I realised I didn't know what I was doing. Had I brought my boat kit with me, I think I'd have gone back on the island lake. But I didn't have it with me, so I didn't have any option really. So I decided to go back in that sort of in-between swim where I'd seen those 2 fish. So I got in there and I see another fish quite quickly. As soon as I turned up my barrow, I looked out and one just poked his head out. So I decided to fish. I made up my mind that these fish weren't anywhere near the bottom. I know the swim. I know it's, 14 foot deep or whatever. Just the way they were showing. Sometimes when carp show, if they slide up through the water and they go back down, and a 2 minute later, a load of bubbles come up and you think, yeah, they're down there. But when they show sort of almost moving forwards and you get that bubble trail, instantly, and you can follow the path of the fish across the surface, to me, that indicates they're only this far under the surface anyway. if they were going down, then the bubbles wouldn't be as long, the line, you know. So I've watched for a bit, and I decided they near the surface. I put a couple of zigs out to start with. Then I've changed one zig to a bottom bait, but I haven't done anything. I think it's easy to make the mistake. I've made it hundreds of times. I've seen other people make it. It's really easy to do. You get in a swim and you are very intent on making your swim, creating your swim, baiting your swim, plumbing your swim, spodding your swim, getting your bivvy up, getting everything set, taking the gamble that you're going to scare everything because you know they're going to come back. But on the lake where you've got quite a few anglers and then fish are under pressure all the time, they don't come back. The reason they were in this swim was there was no lines in this swim. You know, there was lines all around there, and this is as far back as they'd got. And there was a little bay to my left. They were obviously going in and out of this bay, and it was the first quiet. They want to be up there, you know, where the anglers are, because that's what appeals to them. That's why the anglers are there. There's weed up there. There's a bit of shallow up there. That's where they want to be. But they've been pushed out as far as this swim I'd chosen. And I thought, if I start doing the bosh, 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 they're just going to go down another swim, and then they're just all going to disperse. And I think that is a mistake we all make, you know, in too much of a rush to get everything properly sorted. So I just put out singles to start with, and I fished for nearly up until dark. And then I thought, I've got to sort of get something sorted. And everyone else was doing the tea time spod fest thing. So I set my swim, I put my baits out, I baited up my spots, put some particles out there, put some boilies out there, did the do, and put both rigs on the deck. Now, I think that was my mistake, to be honest, because I sort of knew in my head that these fish were high in the water. And so it turned out, you know, in the morning when I woke up and looked out there, I could still see, not bow waves, not fins, but those bulges, you know, where a fish is just below the surface. Every now and then you just see that bulge, like I say, that little disturbance, and you think that's a carp, you know, though they're not actually showing as such. You just know, you can just tell. And yeah, they were still up there, and I think they've been up there all night. So I changed back to the zigs, put zigs out there, and I actually did hook one, although I'm not convinced it was in the mouth, and I'm not convinced he knew he was hooked. I think something just swam through one of the zigs. I had a very, very slow bite. Picked up the rod, and it just sort of slightly went over, and I could see that the sort of bow wave of him, not fast, just swimming off, if you like. And it just went round for a few yards, and then the hook just came out and off he went. So I think he just went through it like a mine and pinged himself and came away. But I stayed on for the 2 nights, the full 2 nights, and I knew I was up against it, really, you know. It wasn't the one. I was there too early in the year. The weather was crap. No, it's massive high pressure. It's really not the one at this time. It's great in the summer, but at this time of year, it's really not the one. So I decided that what I was going to do was pack, go home, unpack all my bank gear, if you like, my barrow and rig, because everything has to be different on a barrow. It all fits in a different way to what it does in a boat. I'd reloaded it all up, so I unloaded it all and changed it all around. Loaded up the van again with my engine and my batteries and everything in the right containers that all fit in. Everything's got a place inside my boat. And decided I was going to go back on the island lake and fish it for the next at least month, which is what I'm going to do. There's fish in there that I haven't caught that, you know, I really want to catch. I've had a result. I've had the big one. I've had 30 fish out of there. But, you know, the second biggest one, a fish called Mike's Pet, it's 50 pounds today. You know, right now today, it's going to be a 50 pounder. Why would you walk away from that? Yeah, it's a simoe shaped fish, but it's darker than roids. It's darker than a few of them. I was looking at a picture of it a couple of days ago, and I thought, what am I doing? Why am I walking away from that? That's a lovely fish. There's two common, well, there's more, but there's a couple of quite big commons. One very big common. It's been nearly 50 pounds last year when they were a bit higher in weight, but he's going to be 45 plus at the moment. You know, just them two alone, that's 2 bloody good fish, let alone everything else that's in there. And I've been looking forward to the autumn on there all year, and now it's sort of arriving. I'm thinking of walking away. I thought I must be mad. So, you know, I reverted to the plan. Island Lake. I love it on the Island Lake. I'll go there, fish through till, I don't know, maybe November time when it gets frosty. Then I'll go on K1 for the winter when, you know, maybe the anglers have died down a little bit. And it's winter fishing. That's what I want it for. You know, the Island Lake was my spring, summer and autumn lake, but we were robbed of the spring, weren't we? And then K1's going to be my winter lake. So, Monday just gone, which is a week ago. Chucked it all in the motor and set off for the Island Lake. And I was glad that I did. You know, I turned up there, I went straight out onto the first island. Well, actually, I boated around the back of the first island into the gap in front of the swim where I'd fished when I caught roids. So I could see the area, you know, this sort of lightly fished swim area, which is the right-hand side of the island. And I could also see the main body of the water on the left-hand side of the island. It's the perfect place to park. There was only, I think, one other angler, maybe two on the entire lake. So I parked my boat up here, they were down the other end, and just stood in the boat, stood up there just like watching. I watched for about a minute and a fish came out on near where I'd caught roids from. Then another one. By this time the engine's up and I'm turning around. I thought I'm going to go into this swim. The reason I've avoided this swim is I've told you before about the wasps on there, and I'm allergic to wasps. When they killed the nests a few weeks ago, that was the only swim that they couldn't find the nest, and it's also got a hornet's nest in there somewhere. So I was very dubious about fishing it. So I went in, got off on the board, stood there, looked around, you know, saw two wasps. I thought I can deal with that if I set the bivvy right up at the back of the swim. Anyway, I've seen these fish showing. So I stuck to, like, similar to what I was talking about over at K1 and you know, in general. Just put out hook baits. I put a zig out there and a couple of bottom baits because it's a 3-rod water on the Island Lake, and fish for the day like that. I thought if they're there anyway, I don't want to go out in the boat and start prodding about and maybe spook them. So I sat and I watched, and sure enough, throughout the day, things changed a bit. Just those 3 casts, I think, the fish sort of moved further back and were sort of along. You fish right to the far margins there, if you like. It's sort of an out of boundsy margins. And they were a little bit further out. So I waited till, you know, sort of tea time, and then went up and drifted as quietly as I could, just give it a little prod as I went through. I knew what I was looking for. I know the marks out there. Dong dong, found my little mark. Couple of scoops, 3 or 4 scoops of particles, handful of boilies, rig on that one, and the third rod was just casting. And the weather was due to be perfect. It was the start, you know, last week. You remember, we got ridiculous winds, didn't we? It went northerly in the end. But before that northerly came in, we had a big southerly come in, a big pressure drop. We had some rain. We actually had some hail and some lightning, a little bit of thunder and lightning. Bang on, you know, perfect September weather at last, which it should be, because this is like, what's that, the beginning of the 3rd week, wasn't it, last Monday? And I ended up having 4 fish. Yeah, and a blinded session. I had a 30-pound linear, gorgeous looking fish.
Morning.
I had a 26-pound common, another real cracker, and 2 smaller commons. Didn't weigh them, but you know, maybe a scraper 20 and a double. But 4 fish in a session, I was well happy with that, you know. And the start of the weather, you know, start of the lower pressure, start of autumn, if you like. And I've seen where I think they, you know, one of the areas, they move around a lot on the Island Lake, but that's one of the areas they're willing to go to at that, in those sort of conditions. Which was perfect. I stayed an extra night. I stayed the Thursday night, which I never do, because I was on fish. And I should have learnt by now. I've been doing it for years, you know. I'm on fish, caught fish, and I phone up and say, I won't be home, I'm going to do an extra night. I never catch on the extra night, because you've already done it. You've caught the fish have moved off, and, you know, the swim's done. And that was the case. So the extra night, all that actually did was push everything back that I should have been doing at home. I had Patreon filming to do. I've got this filming to do. I had some writing to do. I've got, I had to pick up a new van. I've finally, after years and years and years of having 4x4s, which I love, I've always been in this mental turmoil between a 4x4 and a transit. I see the lads, like especially on Barra Lakes, with the transits, they pull up, they open the back doors, put the ramp out, and they go. There's me climbing in the back, pulling out bits of Barra, screwing everything together. So I've taken the plunge. I've got rid of the 4x4 and I've got myself a Transit Custom, and I love it. I really do. It's so comfortable to drive. It's like driving a car. It's more comfortable than my truck was. But I had to sort that out. So all of these things that I should have done sort of Thursday afternoon, Friday, and whatever, have got put back or forward, however you want to say it. As a consequence, now is Monday. I'm filming this on Monday. Monday's my fishing day. I'm never at home on Monday. You know, the kids come back and say, what on earth are you doing here? But I don't mind, because I've seen the weather. And Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this week, there's a huge pressure drop. On Thursday, it's going down into the 980s. Now, if you know anything about barometric pressure and fishing, you'll know that that's proper low. And also on Saturday, I believe it is the Hunter's Moon, which is the big one. You know, that's the autumnal full moon. So I'm quite happy to be going fishing at the end of the week instead of the beginning of the week. I won't do the weekend, but I'll fish up until Friday. And I guarantee you that something special things, not something, special things will happen all over the country at the end of this week. I don't know when you'll get to see this, depends how quickly they upload it. But if you get it to see it in time, you know, before, I think it's the 2nd is the full moon, you know, take a little tip from Laney, grab your rods and get down the lake, because there's definitely going to be something special happening this weekend. And I'll be up there till Friday. Hopefully I'll get a slice of it, and I'll be back next month to let you know how I got on. But anyway, until then, I'll see you later. Ta-ta.